I think we're going to get started. Sorry to make you turn this way. So tonight is an opportunity to look at the Phase 1 design, which is primarily the senior center. Just to step back, we have, since July, have been holding several public engagement sessions, and really initially started talking about the whole building. And then in looking at the potential cost of that project and sort of wanting to spend some time, particularly using the second floor, which is fully open with the recreation department. If you haven't been able to participate yet, I would encourage going over there. We decided to do this in a phased approach. So phase 1 is the first floor, the front part, mostly the front part of the first floor, which would serve as the senior center space. And then you'll see here that the back part and a little bit of the side of the first floor is slated for a future phase. So our architects tonight will talk about sort of phase 1 and then the future phase. And what was just approved at town meeting was funding to get this phase 1 all the way through bid documents so we can understand the actual cost of that project. And then also further develop future phases. So we'll show you an auditorium and we'll show you some veteran space. All of that is a future phase, but you'll see that as well. So we want to confirm this phase 1 design because then we need to start getting into the details of it. So furniture, colors, all the things. So I just want to, so all of the information that we have up is all available on the website. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. But I will let Nancy from BH+A take over.
Hello, everyone. So nice of you to come for this outreach meeting. I know some of these faces I have seen, I recognize from past events, so it's nice to see you all again. So we are, as Christy said, we're moving forward. Why is this not working? Oh. So my name is Nancy Johnson. I'm with BH+A, architect on the project. So as Christy explained, we're working towards getting a bid document ready so that we can get it priced for the Springtown meeting. And in order to make this more manageable cost-wise, we've divided the project up into separate packages. And one is the heating and air conditioning units, upgraded for energy efficiency, and also utilizing the utility rebate program. Another is the emergency management generator, for which grant programs are being pursued. You have repairs to the swimming pool. That's a separate project on its own. It doesn't have to happen in conjunction with the senior center. And then improvements to the parking lot, sidewalks, and EV charging stations. And then as you'll see, we've got future projects that we are considering in the design process and trying to coordinate everything for the future recreation space improvements, veteran service offices, common area, and the new entry at the rear of building. So all of these are separate projects. And the process here, we are starting our additional public outreach and design development workshops, which this is the first one. And then we'll be going into the interior design and furnishings workshops. And then we're going to finalize the construction documents. And then once that's done, we can update the cost estimate, get a better, accurate idea of the cost, and then finalize the drawings if we need to make changes for that. And then the project will be bid. And then once we have the bid and the price, we'll bring it to the town meeting in the spring. So that's a very aggressive schedule. So we're seeking as much input as we can at every step of the way to try to make sure that we're moving ahead at the speed that we need to, but we're still taking into consideration all of your ideas and your feedback. So the design progress. We're already in the midst of having all of these consultants involved. We are talking to our acoustical consultants looking at the job to mitigate the noise from the basketball and also the soundproofing of the various rooms for privacy and various functions. We have structural engineering. We have issues like the windows that are being cut into the exterior wall. We've got the elevator and stair. So all of that is being looked at by the structural engineer. And of course the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection to update all of those systems for the current day. And then we have a kitchen consultant who's working on figuring out exactly the best configuration for the kitchen and all of the equipment involved. And the kitchen consultant is also looking at trying to reuse, to save money, some of the existing equipment that is currently at the senior center and see what is able to be reused. We've got an audiovisual security and telecommunications consultant who is figuring out all of those things. And then we're working on selecting furniture and working with furniture vendors to get pricing on the furniture so that we can get a better idea of the overall job cost. And then, of course, the cost estimator is key to make sure that we stay in the budget. The bidding timeline controls the project timeline. So working back from April 5th is when the contract must be awarded. Town meeting is March 22nd. So the GC bids are due March 6th so that they can be reviewed by the selectmen in time for town meeting. So in order for that to happen, we got February 20th filed sub-bids due. Those are the individual subcontractors that have to put their separate prices in. The pre-bid walkthrough for the bidders is February 5th. So, and then the publication of the project on the Central Register, January 29th. So we have to be complete January 23rd to send the project in. So the design charrette issues. As some of you may have been at the charrettes, and we went through the plan at that time and took feedback from a lot of the groups. We did one at the Senior Center and we did one at the Forbes Center. So we got a lot of input, and there were recurring themes that these are the ones that we kept hearing over and over again. You wanted at the Senior Center entry, you wanted us to create a welcoming entry, wanted to open up the view to the lounge, and there seemed to be a strong preference to dedicate the main entrance to the seniors and keep the other entrances separate. And then the multi-purpose room size is another issue. Is it as large as the existing senior center? Could maybe we relocate the storage room to make the room bigger? So we have studies of that further in this presentation. And the stair and the elevator, there were questions that, do we need them? Is the cost justified? And where it was located, was it the best location? We looked at it and have a better location now, which I'll show you, to avoid limiting the future use of the central recreation space on the second floor, and also to avoid the noise transmission between the first floor and the second floor. And the conference room size and location, this is, we've got a couple of options for you to look at for that. And the billiards and card game locations and soundproofing, we've got some options for that. And of course, the basketball noise, as I mentioned before, is an issue that people commented on, and we're taking care of that. So here is our schedule for the outreach, and these are all open to everyone in the town. Here we are today, November 4th. And we're hoping to confirm the design, and we're going to show you some lobby renderings, the grab-and-go cafe, the multi-purpose room options, and the future work. And then the next one would be November 15th, and this is a Zoom meeting where we can show you the interior design concepts. And then we'll have another in-person meeting on November 22nd where we'll look at the actual finishes that are being proposed for the project. And then on December 6th, there'll be another Zoom meeting to review the final finishes selections, the furniture and audiovisual program, and the design of the future space. And then on December 19th will be an in-person meeting to just sort of go through all of the selections, the furniture and fixtures, and all of the outlets and switches. And then finally, the budget presentation after we get a cost from the cost estimator to review that.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
How do you want to handle questions throughout this presentation?
So we could, if you have a burning question that you feel like you don't want to wait, you can, there's a small group, we can take questions as they come. So.
Would you prefer to hold questions to the end?
Not necessarily. I think if you're afraid, we can do either. I mean, if you, how do you,
We
would
should
you?
probably hold questions, just
Okay.
because I think earlier today some of the questions were answered.
Yeah,
So-
that is true. So if you don't mind holding the question, then we can do that. But the only thing is, I don't want you to forget your questions, because these are important. So, okay, so this is the plan that we currently have that we're looking for feedback on. And we have considered all of these things from the design charrette, and we have relocated, I'm sorry, wrong. So the kitchen has sort of a pivotal location in the plan. It is central to the lobby, the lounge, the multipurpose room, and the future space, and then also to the service access so people can bring things in and out. We've also developed this grab-and-go area, cafe-like window that would service the lounge, and you'll see some renderings of that. And then, of course, here, this kitchen plan is probably going to change quite a bit because the kitchen consultant is reviewing all of the requirements. But there will be a pass-through window somewhere along this wall to open up to the multipurpose room. And then the multipurpose room, its location is very special. It's underneath the entrance with the peaked roof. As you approach the building, it has its sort of that special location. And it also is here so it can be separated from the rest of the senior center. So if this wants to be used by other groups at night, and you don't you don't have to go through the senior center to use that facility. And the other issue was the welcoming entrance. In the previous design, we had a room here, we had a gift shop, and that didn't seem to be very favorable by most of the people who were reviewing it. So we wanted to open up the view right as you come in to the lounge, which is a very nice view and very welcoming. And then the vertical circulation, we've located it right here. So it is central to connect to the future space and to the senior center. And I'll go through the pros and cons of that on another slide. And then we have the rear entrance for the common spaces, which will be developed at a future phase. So here's a rendering of some suggestion of what the entrance could look like. This is opening into the lounge, and then the reception desk on the right, and then looking straight in front of you, you have a screen that would give you all of the information of what's happening in the center. Here's a view looking into the lounge with bookcases, fireplace, soft seating, along with some cafe tables. And as you can see, these are the doors into the multipurpose room. So it's all a nice big open space. Another view of the lounge with the multipurpose room doors right in here. And then this is the entrance, and then here is the reception desk. So here you're looking straight at the multipurpose room doors, and here's that grab-and-go cafe area. This area would be separate from the kitchen. We've made it a little room so that it could be closed off so you're not looking into the kitchen to see all of the other kitchen equipment. And then here is your bookcases and all of your seating areas.
How many square feet is the lounge area? It's kind of small in comparison to everything else.
The lounge, I think it's like 700 square feet, something like that. So,
Okay, that's pretty small.
you think it looks small?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Well, it's open to the main circulation path, so it's a big open space when you put it all together. So here is the second floor. This is the recreation space. Currently, in the first phase, we're not doing a lot of work here. We have we're having a walking track around here, and then this is all open, which can be used in a number of ways by the recreation department, and it would be built out into specific functions in the future phase. And just if some of you aren't familiar, you got the gym here, and there's the pool, and those are essentially staying as they are. And there's also some conference room, party rooms set up here. And this is the entrance to the recreation space is going to be this room, this entrance that is existing. So you come in, and then this stair and elevator are here for connection to the future space for the recreation, or also for the seniors to get up to the recreation. So the benefits of adding the new stair and elevator. There's a possibility the old elevator could come out of service at some point, so it's good to have a new working elevator if that did happen, although we are having somebody take a look at the old elevator to see what needs to be done to keep it working if need be. And using the existing elevator, if we did not put the new elevator in, the location of it is not ideal because it would interrupt the senior center plan and would come up right in the middle. And then even worse than that, it requires a ramp to get to the level change. There's a 3'6" grade change between that entry on the lower side of the plan and the main senior center floor. So we did look at that option when we were doing the initial studies, and it takes up an extra 400 square feet to put that ramp in there, and it reduces the efficiency of the plan. So adding a central stair and elevator.
So you're going to take it.
Excuse me?
Are you taking that elevator and stairs out of?
No, they're going to stay there. They're going to be there. The existing elevator.
How are they interrupting the floor plan for the senior?
Okay, if we were going to use that one and not put a new one in, we would have to open up that wall and put in a ramp so that the seniors could use that elevator. But what's being proposed is that elevator stays as it is for the recreation department. You come into that foyer, you go up to the second floor. And it does not, that space does not connect in any way to the senior center. So the central stair and elevator allows full utilization of the building by all the groups, and it maintains separate entrances identifiable for each. So you've got the senior center on the lower level, first floor. You've got the recreation in the corner, and then you've got the community entrance in the back, and all of them can go between the floors without crossing each other's spaces because of the location of the stair. And so it allows the seniors to connect to the recreation spaces without going outside, and it allows the recreation users to access the future space without going outside or walking through the senior center. And then because the construction required for the new stair and elevators is very involved, it does not make sense to put that off to a future phase. It should be done at the time that the senior center is being constructed. So that's what we're planning. So here's the, in the red rectangle, that is the location. And it's a good location for a number of reasons, as I described for the central location and separate entrances. It also backs up into a shaft wall and the structure of the building. And it keeps the open space in the middle for the recreation to be used in a more flexible plan. And this is a direct response to the questions and issues, the concerns that came up at the charrette. So future build-out projects. Here is the future phase. We are looking at, this is auditorium space. We have veterans offices, which are currently existing rooms, but they need to be modernized, and we're putting in a shared lounge here where there used to be, or where there currently is, but we're going to take out the garage doors and put windows there, so this is a nice space for a lounge. This is an existing break room which will be able to be used by the veterans. And then this auditorium is like a black box theater setup, which is very flexible. These are retractable seats, so that I'll show you in a later slide different ways that this room can be set up. So this plan, this would be the community entrance. You come in here, and here is a lobby space for the auditorium, which could be a gallery to display works that are related to whatever is going on in the performance. And then there's a little area for tickets and concessions, and then some storage space. Bathrooms for the auditorium area would be here, and then we have storage for the auditorium back here, and then an extra training room with some storage here. And we're planning access from the kitchen into this space so that this could be served if this were to be used at a banquet function. It would be easy to get straight through here and service this kitchen. In addition, in the future phase, we're planning a couple of additional program rooms, low impact exercise and arts and crafts. So we looked at different ways to lay out that future space. The first two areas, this is the same plan, just used in different ways. So let's look at the middle one first. This is what you saw on the plan I just showed you. So these are the seats that, when they're pulled out to have a performance, you can retract those telescoping platform seating into this, and this, so that all of this is open for banquet seating. And you can get 26 5-foot diameter tables, and if you sat 8 people at those tables each, that would be 208 people. So that would be pretty much the max for that. So we also looked at a different configuration for a theater. This is more of a traditional stage, proscenium stage with some wings. You get a smaller audience area, so this is showing 172 seats in the telescoping platform, and the square footage of that space is 2,700, where the square footage of this space, which can be this big when it's all opened up, is 4,000 square feet. So the future work on the second floor, we are showing in this open space in between, inside this walking track, we've got a STEM room, a teen room, toddler room, and then open play here. And then there would be some space here for party room or conference. And then there's some additional storage rooms that would be built for as needed around the perimeter.
I know you're preferring that we hold our questions, but can I just ask about the area that has the toddler room and stuff there? So this is on the second floor. So is the track on the second floor, or is it suspended?
It's on the second floor.
It's not
Yeah.
a suspended
It's not a
track above
suspended
it.
track.
So
No.
it'll be
on the same level. So you would,
Okay, that's fine.
yeah, okay.
Thanks.
So we had a number of issues to review on the multipurpose room. That was, we talked about the size of the room, was it big enough? How did it compare to the existing senior center? And we talked about maybe widening the aisles so that we made sure that there was enough room for wheelchairs to get around in there. And then, so whether or not we could relocate the table and chair storage so that we could expand the room, whether or not we wanted a stage, and also thinking about the size of the room relative to the future, the size of the future build-out rooms. So we just sort of did this study of other towns where we knew we had done senior centers, what their population is, and what the size of their multipurpose room in their senior centers would be. So as you see, what we're planning for yours, the 2,800, is one of the larger rooms. And a lot of these towns do have more people. There's not really a direct correlation between the population and the multipurpose room size, but if you can just, I don't know if this helps you to get a sense for, you know, how you compare to the other towns.
If I may, a question on that.
Yep.
As you've done that research, I think more importantly is how often do those towns use that space? Do we know that?
I don't know that on the top of my head,
So
so.
we're having a space, but
Right.
if those towns aren't using it, maybe we don't need as much, or if they say, hey, it's booked, you know.
Well, the
5
other
nights a
thing,
week,
go ahead.
then it, you know, would seem sensible.
I think that it may or may not be an accurate comparison because there are so many other factors involved. Like some of these towns may have other facilities that have large rooms, so they may not need their multipurpose room in their senior center. But we just thought it might be of interest to take a look if it helps.
Actually, one quick comment on that. I think we can look at the use of the senior center room as it is now and understand its multi-purpose use, because that is the room that seniors would use for multi-purpose. For example, my understanding is Boy Scouts use it, and some of the other civic organizations use the senior center as well as just senior programming, but that can give us an idea of how much use.
Thank you.
So these next few slides do a pretty good job of comparing what we're proposing to your existing multipurpose room. Here's a plan of your multipurpose room and your existing, and we're kind of considering the 3 different areas. So this area that is the big open space, the higher ceiling, where no columns, these are all storage closets, so that really is not usable for seating. And then you have this area, which is a narrow space on the other side of the columns, and then this area, which is kind of sort of more entry space. So the main room is 2,150 square feet, and then the alcove here is 750 plus or minus, and the lobby 450. And as you can see, you've got a lot of other things in those spaces currently that keep you from using it, like the billiard tables, and a lot of storage that just happens to be sitting in the room. So on this drawing, the red line is the existing senior center. Underneath that is the proposed multipurpose room. This is just the multipurpose room. The red line is multipurpose room, the existing senior center. Underneath is the proposed. So you can see that the total area might be a little bit bigger if you take all of this compared to this, but it's less useful because of the columns. Here's
What's the ceiling height of old versus new?
10.5 feet versus 12.
She wanted to know what the ceiling height of the existing senior center is.
Really short.
12. I thought we said 12, it's 12 feet today, and this at its low point where it's not arched.
Yeah,
is 10.
yeah. I think this is at its low point is 12 feet. And then you've
Or is
got,
it reversed? I'm sorry. Okay, maybe it was a bad listener. I'm sorry.
They said today that the ceilings are proposed to be higher than they currently are.
yeah. So we have, in the building that we're working with, we have 25 feet from floor to floor. So you've got a lot of space to do something special in the multipurpose room like this. So I'll just point out what's happening. These are the doors into the lobby. There's somewhere around here there would be a window into the kitchen, a presentation wall, and then some added windows over here. And in the middle, we're proposing a divider that would come down from above with a push of a button.
So the tables that were set up there,
Yeah?
is this room gonna be set up with those tables in it all the time?
I don't think so. It's a multi-purpose room. So I know I was talking to the staff today, and they said they probably most of the time would have it set up with tables and chairs. But, you know, we were showing it both ways. If you had a lecture, you might want to set it up like this. So in this, the comparison between what fits into the proposed multipurpose room and the existing senior center, we took this plan, and we have 18 tables, and if you put 8 people at each table, it's 144 seats. So this same configuration at that same spacing was dropped into this plan, and as you can see here, these are a little bit too close to the storage, and they're too close to the columns. So you can't really fit as many in that main space of the round tables and do it well, because you have to maintain egress here, and this is just not workable. But you do have this extra space, which does give you the ability to get more seats. Although this is not really recommended that you pack this many people into that. It was just to show you the comparison. And then,
This gentleman's question,
yes?
how often is the current senior center used at that density?
I don't know, we don't have a staff member from the senior center here, but I don't think it's very often. Yeah. There are a few days during the year that they do pack this many people in.
Yeah, I would say that some of the major events, some of the veterans events, Valentine's Day, Christmas, New Year's, so kind of significant events, I think for their luncheons, certainly not. If they were to have a particular performance that was like, oh, that person comes every year. So probably not once a month, but probably I would say fair enough, probably 8 to 10 times a year.
So the Tuesday night events that they do in the summer,
The
there's
summer,
8
sure.
of those.
Yeah.
Plus all of the
Right.
other major holidays. And then it's true that the community uses it too, so like the Boy Scouts do their pasta dinner here.
Right.
How many people do they? You don't know? Be interesting to find out. That's.
We can get that information.
So for the lecture setup, we're showing in the proposed room 224 seats, and the existing senior center 200, and that includes 4 wheelchair seats and some presenters. So we don't get as many in the lecture layout because we have 218 in rows, whereas you only get 174 in rows with this configuration. That is if this is all staying where it is. So the other issue about increased aisle widths. So we looked at this again and pulled out some diagrams to show you this is the recommended aisle spacing for egress, which would also include certainly the plenty of space for the wheelchair. And so we're showing you 74 inches between the tables, which is ample. And so all of the arrangements have that same spacing. The other comparison between the left and the right on this is what happens if we take the table and if we don't build the table and chair storage in the multi-purpose room, but we move it into this future space. So this is a way we can keep the multi-purpose room in this ideal location, which we all think is great, and give it a little bit more space. So you essentially get 3 more tables, or, and I'll show you, I think it's 2 more rows of lecture seating, you'll see on the next slide. But the downside of it is you have to come out this door and into here and into the storage area here, which is not quite as easy as coming into here. And the other issue is this takes a bite out of your future space. So you don't get, that room that we were proposing there gets smaller. Maybe it's not important. So all of these things have to be considered. You know, what do you guys want? What's more important? Bigger room here or more space in the future? And here is the same comparison with the lecture seating. So with the storage room as planned, you get 224 seats. And with the storage room moved over here, you get 252 seats. And it's essentially 2 rows of seating.
This looks like a good-sized room for fairly large events.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes me question the need for any theater afterwards. Really.
Well, I want to say this is one of the things that is an issue to consider, because do you want to build a room that's 3,000 square feet when you're planning to hopefully get the 4,000 square foot theater in the future? Maybe it's better to stick with the 2,800, and so you have 2 different types of spaces. And keep in mind, I mean, this
I'm
is...
not hoping to get the 4,000.
You're not hoping to?
Oh, no, I think it should not be done at all.
Yeah. Are you asking, or are you?
No, I'm just throwing that out as a consideration. But yes, I mean, this is
I don't think
something...
you'll get a second phase. I don't think the town will approve it.
Hmm.
You barely got this approved.
So we have all the schools and the great room over here in our Forbes Municipal Center is one of the most wonderful rooms visually, but also acoustically. It's an amazing room. And I just don't think we need to double that or triple it compared to that.
Unfortunately, I have to disagree. This is, to me, I've been one of the ones that have wanted a theater. The reason is because this is supposed to be a community center. And if there's one type of thing that brings the community together, it's theater. I've been doing it for 40 years. The space, the one space you have there that has a stage, I think to me would be a great idea, because it would give us an opportunity to get the seniors and the recreation department together working on things, which to me was the whole function of a community center.
Thank you for that. So we looked at what happens if we add a stage. So if we put a stage, whether it is a stage or whether it's just allocating space for a performer, you have reducing your seating down to, in this option, it's down to 15 tables for 120 seats. And in this one, it's 17 tables, 136 seats. And then there were just 2 options for a stair. If it were to be a built-in stage, this one is putting it right up against the storage room with the ramp over here, same over on this other option. And this one shows what happens if you put the ramp behind the storage room, so it cleans up this wall, keeps it away from the windows, and then same here on this option. So it's, you do lose some space. These tables get a little bit closer to the stage. But I think that I don't know what this group feels, I think it would be interesting to hear, but there wasn't a lot of interest for the stage in the earlier presentation. So, that's something to be discussed. So, because building in a stage does limit the amount of things that you can do in that room. One of the, back into the actual senior center area, we looked at all options for the card room and the conference room. Most of the rooms, we are providing windows. So these rooms here, these program rooms, would not currently have windows if we didn't add them. So these are added in the construction to cut into the existing brick wall to put some important natural light into these rooms. The card room is the only room that is interior. So we're showing some glass here, borrowed light, so that they can kind of get some glimpses of light through the glass in these doors. And this conference room was set up based on the comments that we got from the administrative staff that they wanted to have access directly from their office space into a conference room for staff meetings, and they wanted a conference table for 16, and that would also be accessible from the hallway for other groups. There has been some people had said, well, we want some smaller conference rooms, so we did this option to look at maybe the possibility of taking the card room, moving it so that it does get exterior windows, and dividing the space into 2 conference rooms. And one of the other considerations with that is that the billiards is a noisy activity, the card room is a noisy activity, so you put them close together, you insulate with sound over here, so you're kind of grouping the noisy areas. It makes the acoustics a little bit easier to deal with on that.
Question?
Yes?
Was there any discussion around combining conference and programming? To me, conference room for staff purposes is just a program item. We've got a room over there, program room 2, that's got roughly 20 chairs in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take a carve out 430 square feet for dedicated conference space, which probably represents at most maybe a meeting a day.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a program, again, it's just, why can't we use one room and program it?
Yes.
Conversation?
So I was having a conversation with the senior center staff this afternoon about this issue, because they were reviewing this option back and forth, and their feeling was, they didn't want to have to interrupt the programming to have a staff meeting. So they felt like having a conference room that was big enough was better, so that they could let all the programs go on as planned. So I get your point. Yeah, you could use a program room, and I did ask that question, say, well, can't you use that? And they said, well, we'd just rather not, take away from the programs. But their feeling was that they couldn't use the two. Neither one of these conference rooms were big enough for their staff meetings. So if we went with this option, they would probably have to take one of the program rooms for the staff meetings.
How often are staff meetings?
Right now, on the current plan, we don't have a dividing wall in the current card room. So
And
why do we need to put a dividing wall and make it 2 conference rooms? Why not make it a conference room that's big enough for the 16 staff? I didn't realize we had.
That is an option. That is an option. So there are 2 issues here. One is whether or not it's 1 or 2 conference rooms. If you take those 2 spaces, they're roughly the same square footage, and whether the card room goes on the window or the card room goes on the inside. So the other thing that they said was that it was ideal for them to have the conference room off of their. Over here, the staff likes this, because that way, if they're in a staff meeting and they need to get to their desk quickly, they can do that. Whereas here, they have to come out this door and around and into this area. So it's.
How many staff are there at the senior center?
It's a good question. I don't know off the
Just
top of my
tested
head.
for 16 seats.
There's 4 full-time, and then there's some part-time staff, which I'm not sure that it equals 16.
So it's not only staff meetings; they also have supporters meetings. There's a lot of different meetings that are held in conference room. Yeah, that's another one. Yep.
Which will be less expensive to build?
Probably the first one. The one conference room's less walls, so it is probably not a huge difference, one way or the other.
I'm just, with my voice here.
You're the cost police.
Let's be realistic, we won this by 5 votes. This has to be as down and dirty as humanly possible. So if you have choices like that, one is more cost, one is less cost, always go less cost. You know, if you're looking at 2 pieces of carpet, which one costs less? They're gonna wear the same, cost less. This is gonna happen, because if we only got your design fees approved by 5 votes, and now we have to ask for however many millions, I think that should be your team's like deciding factor on everything. Is this gonna be more expensive? Does it absolutely have to happen? So yeah, you know, to your point, I'm sure they'd love to have a conference room that is right outside of their offices. But do they need it? No. If they don't need it, but it's a nice to have, okay, then cost is gonna rule.
I just want to point out the design team they decide very little. They're responding to what you all want.
Okay,
So you have to tell them what you
I'm
want.
telling you.
Don't worry, but I mean,
I'm here
there's
because
other people.
I want this to get approved.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen many things come up at town meeting, be like, no, you're not, you don't have everything buttoned up. You're not making the choices the way the town would want you to make them. So I understand, yes, that we'd love to have a separate entrance for the senior centers. Well, why can't we have teenagers go through there? Like, let's look at these by cost decisions, the want to have versus the need to have. I think that really has to be important. Like, if anybody here wants this to happen, that's gonna need to be your deciding factor. And then you're gonna have to pick, okay, you have 10 friends, you have 10 friends, you have 10 friends, you're all gonna sell them on it. And make sure that this gets approved at town meeting. Otherwise, it's the $1.2 million that you have right now is gonna get wasted. And I don't want that to happen.
Nobody does.
The only other thing I would just add, so I think great points, when we think using the conference rooms, the split conference room as an example, I think in addition to cost, because I think that's obvious, right? Like, but I appreciate you saying that. It's also thinking about long-term flexibility and use, right? So sometimes the cheapest best today cost, and I'm not saying, like, let's assume quality is equal, but although I tend to believe quality is not equal when you're talking about price differences, like you often get what you pay for. But you're right, maybe we don't need a flowered rug, we just need like a tweedy looking rug, right? Like, and it's the same durability. But when we're talking about use of space, you know, we're building this for the next 30 years, right? So what we need today, and that's an uncomfortable thing, right? Because no one can say, well, how do we know what we need in 30 years, right? And so I look at that as saying, you know, what's the cost of putting in a wall partition or positioning it such that it could be added in the future? And again, I don't know what those are, but I think that absolutely should be part of that cost calculation. Just like the theater, do we need it now? No, but you know, having a space that we can build on in the future for large gatherings, like we're gonna need that at some point. How many times do we need it? I don't know. So it should be multiple purposes, not just like, because we're not gonna have community dinners every week, right? So we don't vote every day, so.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why, I just to go back to the reason why I asked the question about the conference rooms is, unfortunately you can't see it in this particular slide, but one of my concerns is the kitchen space. Currently, you're having a kitchen consultant
Right.
provide some information, but if you look at the diagram right now, you talk about openings between the kitchen and the multi-purpose room, but right now on that wall, you have all sorts of utilities. You've got stoves and all sorts of them along that wall. My concern is this.
They may not be there.
Oh, I get
Yeah.
that, I get that. What I'm asking is this, though. I see that card room space, we've got a number of bathrooms, and I recognize that we have to build out bathrooms to support the potential volume of phase 2.
No, that's all for the senior center. The bathrooms that are here are for the
Okay.
senior center.
Okay, so my concern is that that kitchen space, is it adequate to serve all the purposes that we're talking about using? It's going to be perhaps supporting a theater show while there's a function going on in the senior room, senior center, or in the multi-purpose room all at the same time. And I'm just looking for more efficiency in that and seeing redundancy between conference and programming. To me, it's a programming issue. How often the senior center team has to meet, even if it's once a day, an hour a day, it's 1 hour a day that gets carved out of that, or even programming isn't done in that room, right? I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to go back and look to see if that's an efficient use of space.
Okay.
Seems unlikely the whole staff could be meeting and there's programs going on.
Yes.
That's a valid point.
Who's running the program?
Right, yes, exactly. And I think, you know, when I look at this, I say, okay, if you move that card room to where conferences and you slid those bathrooms down and, you know, maybe other things could slide down, you can enlarge that kitchen by 25% perhaps and meet a better, you know, provide more functionality in that kitchen. Because if you're offering, you know, hot dogs out the window on one side and full dinners out the door on the other side, it's going to be a very busy area.
So
I think
we
have to
will,
manage some of that with schedule too.
Yeah.
yeah, we have a, like I said, we have a kitchen consultant working on that, and hopefully, you know, pretty soon, we're going to have an idea if there is a shortcoming in that room, but we haven't heard that yet, so.
Can I just say, so it's good conversation. I just want to point out that many of our programs are actually run by outside vendors, and so it is likely, just as today, having staff doing something while programming is going on. That being said, you know, I think it's a good conversation to have. I also think I would be interested to understand if the staff is talking about their full staff or if they were talking about a council on aging meeting.
It's all of it, because they said there's staff meetings, there's council on aging meetings, there's supporters meetings.
so I
So
was
they
just
have a
wondering-
lot of different groups that come in and need a conference room
Right, so
that
I would
size.
argue that a council on aging meeting should be meeting in the larger
Yeah.
room so that the public has space.
And their point was, they thought that the large conference room was more flexible, because if a small group wanted to meet, they could still meet at one side of the large conference table, whereas if you divide it up into two rooms, then you can't accommodate the large groups without taking up the program space, and that
I
would,
feel comfortable with the design on the left. It seems pretty efficient to me.
I'm sorry, what was it?
I feel comfortable with the design on the
Yeah.
left. It seems pretty efficient and well organized.
Okay, thank you for that input, yeah.
If we open the room, oh,
I just have a comment on the one that's circled here. So I sometimes teach in a space that is split in half. They do use two sides. It makes it very functional to do like a larger space and two smaller ones. And so it would be able to meet, you know, the day-to-day staff meetings, but then maybe a subcommittee could meet in the second room if there was a divider in that space. So more functionality and the circle.
So you're suggesting that that would be a movable partition, which is extra cost?
I would
So-
also just like to remind, because one of the conversations that came up earlier in the meeting today was also the multi-purpose room being divided, as we just heard. We can also split that up. So now, essentially, we've got program one, two, we've got two conference rooms, a card room, which in theory, I'm not sure what these card tables are specialized or not, but in theory, that could be used perhaps at a meeting when there's not card games going on. And then you've got two more large rooms potentially in the multi-purpose room that could also be used. That's a lot of programming space at any point in time. And I don't think right now today, to my knowledge, that we're programming to that volume. I'm not saying that that wouldn't happen in the future, but I would just say that I think this is an opportunity to drive more efficiencies.
I think that's part of the dream. If you have more programming space, more can go on.
Yep.
Exactly. And again, that this is for into the future, so. it's
I
a
would
lot.
make a casual decision about the room dividers. I've had them at work and they're notoriously trouble prone and they're very expensive.
Yep. Especially the good ones are very expensive. The ones that are less trouble prone are more expensive.
I think the other thing to think about too is, you know, like that front view card on the right-hand side, the card room being on the front side, lots of natural light, versus on the interior side. I know that there are ways, you know, if you go into a hospital now, they have rooms where there are no windows, but they've got lighting that, scenery that makes it look like, you know, you're outside or you're getting natural light. So I'm sure architecturally, I don't know the cost of it, there's a way to do that so that those rooms don't look like a drab cave. But I do think it's important to think about the difference in use of those spaces. My thought is that the conference room should be on the interior and the card room on the exterior.
Because you'd
if
rather
nothing
give the
else-
light, you'd rather give the light to the card room and instead of the
Yeah, I
conference.
just think for use, and Plus with the conference room, oftentimes, you know, you're showing a presentation, so you're gonna draw the blinds anyway. I'm kind of a stickler for how the blinds look from the outside, one's up, one's down, so then we take care of that.
Good
I'm glad to
points.
see they're all up in here.
Good thoughts. So people don't draw the blinds on the card room, probably not.
No, right, I mean, but they may or may not or whatever, but I just think that, I don't think the conference room needs to have front view.
Okay.
Can I add one more thing? How much cards do they play at the senior center that they need a room for cards? That it couldn't just be any program room where they set up tables to play cards? Are there cards going on all day at the Westborough Senior Center? It seems like, do we need a card room? I mean, can it just be another program room? And if that is the case,
Yeah, I think, you know, it is a room that they would want to have a room of that size available for cards, but it could certainly be used for other functions as well.
Maybe we call it a games room. rather
Games
than a
room,
bar.
yeah. Mhm.
I could be mistaken, but it seems to me like the distinction between the two rooms is an extra door on the wall. Is that not correct?
That is part of it. I think in this, the card room is slightly bigger, so it took a little bit of space, not much, out of the billiard room, just to allow space for those 4 square tables. It's a little bit bigger than the conference room.
At the initial community engagement, one of the things that we were doing, so when we were meeting with stakeholders and we were doing the initial community engagement, it was really to understand what functions we needed to put into this building and what people were looking for. So I think that the select board has said many times that they're interested in the flexibility of all of these spaces, but we're trying to show, you know, what the different rooms could be used for, because once you get to sort of the next phase of choosing furniture and things like that, you're gonna have to make sure that, you know, the furniture to support the proposed programming, understanding that really the ideal is that all of these spaces are flexible for community
So,
use.
Christian, I think what you're saying is the design surely has to be decided, or we need to know what the room is being used for before we can actually talk about furniture.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, I know we had that timeline now till April. How, you're addressing yourself, but you don't have much responsibility for these decisions. So, who's the decision maker here, and by what date do we have to have the decision as to which room is which?
Well, I think that's what we're doing here. So that's why I'm saying we're identifying that as a card room, because that's one of the things that we've heard from many people, that they wanted a space for that. So we're gonna need to make sure that we have tables and chairs for the card room, understanding that you could push all that to the side and make it a yoga room.
I
don't
guess
know.
I'm saying, I mean, I'm almost feeling, are we supposed to have a vote here now, because I'm with Shelby, I think it should be the option one, not that one. How are we guiding our selection?
Well, so I think
So
you're
on?
being asked right now, do you think that the program room should get that natural light with a window? Or do you think that it should be sort of pushed over without the natural light? Like, that's really the question.
And what's your feel, how do you feel that the tone is right now? Which way are we going?
I feel it's mixed.
I can tell you that.
It's not the select board that are sitting here though, that are listening to
No,
you.
I understand, I just, I don't
You
know,
were
how
asking
is
my
it
opinion.
concerned citizens?
Well, and what I'm trying to say is, this is what we pay the architects for, is to hear all of that feedback and synthesize that feedback into the design. So, and that's what we've been seeing, sort of the iterations all along the way. And so, you know, you have select board members in the audience, but they're waiting for the architect to translate the feedback from all of the meetings.
So if I may just clarify my position on this, I don't think it needs the plan for the option addressing comments. I think it needs a change in the nomenclature on the current plan. That becomes the card room, that becomes the conference room. Yeah, that's it. We don't need to build walls or add doors.
So you're suggesting that we just switch the rooms, switch the functions, and not change the plan?
Correct.
So you like the plan on the left, but the functions on the right?
Correct.
Yeah. That could be done without the dividing wall.
Yep.
Yep.
Without the cost of the dividing.
Wait a minute, does
So
that
can I-
mean on the left, the card room is not open to the outside, not open with windows?
What he was just suggesting, correct me if I'm wrong, but was that we put the card room on the windows,
Images now.
Yes.
but leave the conference room as it's currently drawn as the card room on the image on the left.
But can I just clarify, those walls are not yet built,
They're not.
right? So when you say switch them, the conference room on the left is smaller just by their design, not what exists in the building. So those walls have to be built, whether the room is 10 by 12 or 14 by whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, okay.
So I would add one,
Both 430 square
yeah,
feet?
they are, yeah.
Is that a typo?
Is that
Uh,
correct? One looks bigger than the other.
It's the card, yeah, so you can see that on the plan on the right, the card room wall is probably moved a foot
Yeah.
down, so it's slightly bigger. And I think that if you are going to set it up with the 4 tables like that, then that is a good idea to do that. It's not symmetrical, but at least you have better ability to get around the card tables.
I actually disagree. I think that I prefer the 2 smaller conference rooms, and I reflect back on what was said earlier about this is a space that we're building for, decades to come. And what is missing on the left side plan are smaller rooms. I think to your point of, will a phase 2 happen? I think at this point, it would be in our best interest to provide a variety of spaces that have flexibility to be able to do a bunch of different types of programming. So I'm in favor, even if we have to add the cost of the wall, to the option on the right with the 2 smaller conference rooms. Because I think there's more flexibility in those smaller spaces that we're lacking in the left hand.
Could we make it a concertina wall? Is that more expensive than a solid wall?
Yeah, the movable wall would be more expensive than a built wall. The other thing that the staff, just to let you know that I did have a long discussion with the staff today after the first meeting, and they strongly preferred the scheme on the left because that meets their needs better. And they said that, that one large conference room, at least you can fit the number of people, they thought it was more flexible because you can fit more people in, or small ones. If you have 2 small ones, you'd have to take a program room, which I did mention before. She said that if it's a counseling issue, which was one of the things that I thought started this conversation, that we have this office that is right here, that is not allocated for an individual. It's a future office. And she said that could be set up as a small conference room for counseling, which would be the size groups that somebody might need, like 2 or 3 people, whereas instead of intimidating them by going into a large conference room. So this could be like a little small meeting room. So that is another option for that.
If I may, I know you mentioned you were at the senior centre this afternoon. I'm really interested. I'm hearing the staff's opinion as to they would like the lights.
Yes.
What did the seniors have to say about the difference between the 2 areas? Are the seniors concerned that they would prefer the left-hand side with the windows, or were they happy to accept that it would be inside playing cards?
I think
They are the end user.
I think we had 2 comments where people did prefer the switch of the card room being on the exterior.
I'll
So-
make a comment about that. So I volunteer at the senior center just 2 hours a week, and we use the card room to play a game. And we need 4 tables right now, 3 to 4 tables right now. I strongly feel that there should be some light, natural light coming into that room, and that room, the card room, is going to get more use than the conference rooms.
Okay.
For the conference rooms, we're all kind of used to going into conferences in a room that's deadish looking. I'm not suggesting it has to be totally dead, but we're used to going into windowless rooms. I think that the card room / whatever it's used for whatever program, that the seniors deserve a pleasant room with a bit of natural light.
Thank you for your opinion. It was very well put.
I agree with you, and for a similar reason. I think that all the doors to all the rooms should at least be half glass. So you can see if someone's in there, and you're not, what's going on behind that door, is it empty or is it used? And it creates a little more transparency of what's going on.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there anyone here who works at the senior center? Okay. So, at the senior center now, I believe the conference room is used frequently for lunches,
Mhm.
because there's more space.
They use it as a break room, she said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if I worked at the senior center, I too would like that very, very much. To have the conference room there in the image on the left side and have bright light. And, you know, if I'm gonna have a meeting with 2 or 3 people, we can't fit into the admin assistant's room or the outreach person's room. We can easily pop right over to the conference room and have a meeting with 3 of us there.
Yep.
And then I just also want to say that the break room is probably at 150 square feet. What's 150 square feet? Anyone know?
And I could take
Oh, 5 by 10.
Small bit.
Yeah, so
Very small.
with no windows. I'm sure
No
that,
windows.
you know, and I love all the staff there, but I'm sure that they would rather have some windows when they have their lunch as well.
Yep, all those are good points, yeah. It's too bad that, you know, we do have just the configuration of the building, there's only so much perimeter.
Yeah, but I would
So-
go with, I think what Steve and I saw Shelby nodding and stuff. You need to think of the end user, and the end user are the individuals from our town, whether they be seniors or not, who we're trying to provide a nice environment for them.
Okay.
Can you also, if you're moving the card table room, can you also add a door, like move the bathroom over like you have? So they can also have access to it, again, while it's not in function?
That would be a question, I don't know whether they would want to have that access, that people from the card room could, I mean, maybe it would be a one-way only door, I don't know, but.
Joe, can you ask the question again?
So we're talking about truly blending the plans. So the one on the left that has access from the office space, so it's not a dedicated conference room, it is the card table room. They're able to use it when no one is having a card session. If they want to have lunch in there because there are windows, they can do that as well. That's a lockable card reader door, so nobody goes into their office space.
Yeah,
And it just adds a little bit more of that multi-purpose usability within there. And then one other question on here, are these 2 spaces only seniors, or billiards and cards, is that also for teens and other members of the community?
well, I think it's up to the town to make that final decision, but I understand the intent from the seniors is that these rooms be only seniors.
So I think that all, yes, and I think that that's also part of programming. So for example, could we envision a time when there's need for community space after senior hours, and there's an adult there, and there's a Monopoly night, I have no idea, right? And they want to use that room and it makes sense, maybe, right? I mean, I think, without getting too in the weeds, I know the 2 pool tables that are purchased now were done for the seniors with senior money, so there's a sense of ownership
because
there.
that's
They
it,
don't want a
yeah.
bunch of kids coming and wrecking
No,
it, so,
understood.
you know, I get it. I also think we have to think about this as, it's a community center, so dedicated during primary use, but also understanding what the rules of the rooms are. So I'm not trying to be.
Yes or no?
I'm not trying to be like evasive, I just think that we need to kind of think about how we will maximize the use of the space while still respecting it for all, you know, taxpayers, you know. Well,
Sorry.
kids aren't taxpayers yet, but we might be able to do
I
that.
do have to say, so as a parent of children who I think could utilize the space, that is my primary concern. So we have some exercise rooms upstairs that we've very vocally heard people say, well, we want to make sure that the seniors can use that space. But my 12-year-old can't go play pool downstairs. Right, and so there really seems to be a disparity there between expectations. So the seniors get to use the whole building, and the children can use the whole building when the seniors, or can use the upstairs of the building when the seniors don't want to use it, and that doesn't necessarily seem. So I was really on the fence in voting for really any of the expenditures here, until we had a half day at school, and my son who's now at Gibbons and all of his friends went and spent the afternoon playing at Bay City Commons, and my husband went down there and he said there were just kids, as far as you can see, there were just kids everywhere, and they were all playing, and my teenager was there too, and my kid lost it, and they were all having fun and getting along, and it was great. And now it's cold, and my kids are gonna have another half day, and this is where my 12-year-old and his buddies could go out and play in a place that is safe, and there's reasonably supervised, right? I mean, they're 12 and they're old enough to play alone, but maybe not Lord of the Flies style. But what
I'm hearing a lot of focus on providing a card room and program space and all of this stuff for the seniors. And upstairs, like, they could play basketball. And there's a walking track that we want to make sure the seniors can use without kids.
I don't know if you want me to address this, or do you?
Well, I would say yes to all of that. I mean, I think this is the coming together that the community has to have. We have to have a balance between needs, right, and recognizing what those needs are, and safety issues and real concerns about that, and noise level and all of that, and understand this is an intergenerational community center, and to me, there is a balance, and we can achieve that through great programming and discussion and ideation around that, right? So I'm not in charge of the senior center or the intergenerate, but that's sort of what I see, like, how this all comes together. Will it happen day one? No. Do I think it's gonna require trust in building? Yes. But your voices, interacting of all ages, is really important to this process. So keep them coming and feed them here, because I think we all need to see that across our generations.
One thing that may make that seem like we're focusing too much on the seniors is that because the first phase of the project that we're really working on right now is pretty much the first floor, which is mostly senior space. But I think that it is important to understand where it does get utilized by other
But
ages.
there's also a very heavy focus on very separate entrances for seniors so that people aren't walking through their space. And that's sort of right in that conversation, and I say that intentionally.
That was what, with that, we
So-
did hear that loud and clear from the seniors, that's what they,
I think if you're
The
really
problem
careful.
is there's not a,
It's a community center.
Right.
and we're
We're
asking
from the
seniors
community.
predominantly. We haven't had conversations at any of the school meetings, right? We haven't talked specifically with parents. Now, certainly we all have the option of being here and participating, but our focus has largely been asking seniors what they need. And I think that to some extent
I would
is
say,
a bias.
I would say that actually is not true. I think we did the community survey. It was offered to everyone in the community. I don't have the demographics, those are available. We did get a great cross-section of feedback. I think you're spot on with this whole, like, us versus them, and I can't stand it, quite frankly. And we need to kind of break through that, right? So I think that's where we start talking about, like, well, how could the space be used, right? And, is the billiard room, I mean, what if someone donates a billiard table?
Right.
Oh, well, maybe it goes upstairs. I mean, like, is there a space for that? I don't know, like, right? So, and who would use that up there? But I do think we have to kind of think about, it's gonna come down to programming. I don't know how else to say
I
it.
agree. My concern though is, I mean, we are spending money to intentionally build separate entrances. And I think that's the function of the conversation.
I don't,
we went
it's not,
to this.
I would say it's not I mean.
No, it's not, and I think that's really important clarification. When we talk about senior space, I think there's going to be dedicated senior space, right? They need counseling or nursing or whatever they need in their space. Hallways, such as the entranceway that we're talking about, that entryway is going to be used by the entire community, and in no way, shape, or form should be considered a senior-only entrance, because when we look at what the future build in phase 2 could be with this auditorium, you're going to have 1,000 people. They're not going to go upstairs through the current elevator to walk across, to come downstairs to go to an auditorium, right? I mean, come on, I mean, it is a community entrance for the whole community to go in. I see the library as being full community. I see the multi-purpose room as being full community. It's programming. To Shelby's point, it's all about programming, right? Making sure people have dedicated space for the time that they need.
Just because we're not currently renovating a lot of the second floor, there's tons of big open rooms up there that hopefully young people can be using,
Everybody could be using it.
Well, and they are, and I think that's important. So the recreation department is also a user group that has been involved in this. So the recreation commission, the recreation staff. So to what Shelby was saying earlier, it is a cross section of generation. I just think that there's sensitivity to the fact that recreation never had any indoor space, and now they have indoor space and they're programming it and they'll continue to program it. The senior center has their own space, and this is showing that we can actually improve the programming into this area. So I think that might be some of the sort of
I think
undercurrent of what
at
folks
town
are
meeting, to
hearing.
answer this person's question, that it would be important for the recreation department to come with what's your program,
Yeah.
so that you don't feel like there's nothing for the kids.
I think, I'm a senior. I don't use the senior center a lot, but I use it. Well, I understand, because I am sure you got 180 degrees from this afternoon. And no, I get it. They already have a building, right? They have all this stuff, if you want to call it that. And they're concerned about them losing something. So I think, to me, the conversation is proving to them that you're not losing anything, you're actually gaining things. And maybe we need to do a better job of that. I said before, the thing about the theater, I really want this to be something that pulls everybody in town together, all ages together. And I think that if we can kind of get that message across to everybody, I think it'll make it much easier, because I am absolutely with you. I am wicked concerned about, we're gonna go through this whole thing and get to town meeting, and it's,
5
so
votes, that's nothing.
it's not only just worrying about the money though, it's educating the town as to what the real benefits of everybody of what the real benefits are.
It's just a side question, will we need 2/3 votes?
Yes.
Yes.
That seems scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
That's why your point earlier was very good.
So this is why the outreach is very important, because I think that if people are involved in these meetings, they might be more inclined to be supportive, hopefully. They have a voice. And if they see what, a little bit more than just a plan, lines on paper of, the next phases, which I'm gonna, if you don't mind, move ahead.
At town meeting, it might, to your point, would be a good idea to have someone discuss the revenue opportunities here. Like when a private group is gonna use the theater or use the big room or whatever, are they gonna pay? And is there, what's the revenue opportunity there to help support the staffing and the upkeep and all that kind of thing? It'd be nice to have both sides, the cost and the revenue.
Yeah, I had sent Jen a note to say, are you guys able to do birthday parties yet? And she says, no, we're not ready for that. But hey, I just spent $500 on a birthday party. I'd love to be able to spend that here versus the place.
Probably when the pool is, running.
I would just say also, I've been upstairs in the rec area, and there is plenty of room up there. And I've also spoken to people who have been playing basketball up there, young people. And older people who have been there for exercise class, and they're all loving it. So, I agree with you though. I would love to see that kids have somewhere to go that's indoors in bad weather.
So this is just a discussion about coat storage and other types of storage and where we are currently showing it on the plan. We did look at other senior centers, and some of them put storage out in the open in the corridor, and this is in the summer, and there's not a lot of coats, but it does collect a lot of junk. So we haven't planned to do that in this facility. So as you can see in yellow, this is the current locations of all the storage. Some of them would be coats, and some of them would be supplies or chairs and tables.
If you ever have a chance to visit Mill Pond, their lost and found is this whole wall, and it's chock full. So while storage is important for the obvious things, personal storage, I would minimize it because it will become a totally great observation.
So Joel was talking about it this afternoon, and he was telling people how we have done other senior centers where people have asked for coat closets, and we put them in, and then they find that they don't get used. Because a lot of people just would rather bring their coat with them wherever they go. So I think that if there are coat closets, they need to be in the program rooms. So
Exactly.
somebody can come in for a program and put their coat
Put their
there.
stuff down.
Yeah. So. Future design outreach. So as the next stage is hopefully we get all the rooms positioned where we want them, and meanwhile at the same time we're designing the interiors and what the interiors looks like, what's the style, what are all the finishes and the furniture. And so the next meeting is going to be some images of the interior design approach. And we'll put together boards talking about kind of lighting, the material palette, the room renderings of the rooms, room finishes, and a board that shows, here's an example of finishes and lighting. And hopefully everybody will be present to get, some feedback on those issues.
Sorry,
Cost.
Can you just run us through the timeline, Lex? I think some of those meetings were like 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
You mentioned one was on Zoom.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, were they at 10 o'clock in the morning? Yes, I know.
Yeah, they were 10 o'clock in the morning.
I
No,
think you've got an opportunity.
you won't get me.
Yeah, maybe, I think we've got an, I think.
So if this is a problem, I think, let us know so maybe we can do, on those Zoom meeting days, we can do double. I mean, today we're doing double. If it's necessary, we can do that.
I'm not sure
So.
how a Zoom meeting can look at palettes and colors.
So we can show, they could be hybrid meeting and also Zoom. So people who can't make it to the meeting can actually go on their computer. We can show pretty good images of pictures on the Zoom meeting. But like I said before, the meeting where we're actually showing the carpets, the actual finishes, that's going to be in person. So I'll go back to that slide when we're done, so everybody will take a look at that again. So I think we're almost through with this. Cost, of course, is a big issue. The cost is the total project cost. It's not just the construction cost. It includes all the things, materials, overhead, pre-construction, general conditions, insurance, profit, bonding, labor. That's the construction cost. And then the total project cost also includes the soft items, project management, design, software, FF&E, which is the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So all that is added together to the total project cost. So project one, the cost is first floor senior center, $9,450,000. First floor demo, $1 million. Total project cost is $10,450,000. And then the centralized elevator, $670,000. Centralized stair, $330,000. Subtotaling $1 million for that piece. And the rooftop HVAC units, $800,000. Total project cost is $12,250,000. And then we're expecting a $500,000 Eversource rebate, which would give you a total cost of $11,750 for the first phase of the project, which is the senior center.
Do you imagine that the other two phases are going to have the same cost density as this?
So
In other words, we're talking 12 plus 12 plus 12?
21.
I think that there was a little more discussion about that on the previous meeting with the Finance Committee and the Select Board, but this particular meeting, we're focusing just on phase one, so I don't have all of that breakdown for the phase two.
I do think that's a great question, and certainly relative to, as we get further down the road and the big picture presentation. We've heard that loud and clear of, don't chip away at this, let us know what we're in for so that we can understand that. It's not just about phase one, but understanding, and again, we don't know what, you guys do inflationary factors all the time, right? So it could be like if we did this.
The escalation as to when it's
Yeah.
done, I mean, every year that
Right.
it's put off, the number goes up.
Right, but I do think it's important at town meeting that we show that, because people will want to understand that, okay,
Yeah.
it's 12 million now and it's 50, don't quote me, I'm not saying it's 15 million, 5 years from now for phase two,
So the number that we showed at town meeting for phase two is, it's about 11.5 million. That being said, that also includes some things that we had talked about pulling out as separate projects. So one example is the emergency generator has been identified as costing $970,000. Yesterday, or no, last week, I guess, we submitted a grant for $970,000 for the emergency generator. So these are some things that we're working on. So can't promise they're all going to be paid for with other funds, but these are some of the things that we're trying to identify and take advantage of some opportunities.
I just also want to add on the financing, it was brought to my attention, so I'm just sharing here because some of you may have been asked as well. So grants, Christy touched on that. I know the town will continue to look at, are there other recreational grants or senior grants or whatever, right? So we have a great success record in the town of applying for and receiving grants. Someone specifically asked me about, actually a couple someones, about would we seek private contributions. So I'm making up, if a company said we want to donate X, would we? I don't have that answer right now. Maybe Christy does.
We've spoken to it a couple times about the potential for a sponsorship program, which we'd have to put in place. We can't seek donations, but we can certainly create a gift account that people can donate to.
Can we seek on your behalf?
So those are other opportunities.
Well, so I guess, so Christy, so hypothetically, let's say someone works for a company XYZ and they say, oh, we would love to do this and we want to make a significant gift contribution, like 6-figure contribution.
Then the board's going to have to set up a gift account because we don't have one.
And then they want to name the auditorium.
That's a sponsorship
after them.
program, so
Okay.
that's something that we need to develop.
Okay,
So
so-
we have talked about all of those things.
So
it
it's-
can happen, is what you're
It
saying.
can happen, and a lot of times these conversations happen in like a dribble of a conversation, but I think it's important that we share it here.
Can I also add something to do with the finances, which is, as a townsperson, I always want to know how this is going to affect me, because that's the way people are. And it's well and good to see it's going to be $12,000-ish, which I think bumps up to actually $16,000 in the end, because of overruns or whatever they
Million.
call it. Let's say it's 15,000, 50 million, sorry, million. But I wonder if people sitting in the auditorium at high school would be thinking, but how is that really going to affect me?
Yes.
In 2025, in 2026, in 2027, based on the taxes I pay now, what kind of percentage increase or whatever?
Yeah, that is a
something we
study
would
that gets, that
scare
is very
everyone with,
helpful.
or is
No,
that?
we always present those numbers. So when we bought the building, we actually presented an estimated debt schedule that had an impact of, I think it was like $115 to the average single family. We actually added on to that the estimated maintenance for the building. I'm happy to report that when we went out to borrow, actually the highest year was actually $90 to the average single family. So we always present those numbers. One of the things that makes this, we're still going to do it. One of the things that makes it difficult to sort of say right now is we have some available funds, like the Pulte money, which was approved for this phase. If we're going to suggest using more of that, obviously that's going to change that number. So those are some of the things that will influence that number, but that number will absolutely be presented.
Yeah, and all the grants coming in, and all
Yeah,
that, change
and
everything.
what happens with the building? Existing, selling it,
Right.
so if that, we sell it for X million, then that's a minus.
So because you would have to do the project and then move the seniors and then sell it, you would likely borrow and then you would pay back the borrow. But yeah,
But it's
it
still a
would,
piece of information to help
Yes.
everybody put one or two where they're going.
right. Yeah.
And one of the things that, I see that this is a very, very steep uphill battle that this is going to be to get this approved. People are, the appetite and the folks that are at town meeting, they were just pulling this apart just to get the 1.2 approved. So in the event that we are able to get this approved, what can be pulled from phase 2 to make it even more palatable? Meaning, I had brought up one of the items of, can we do the veterans offices now? No one is gonna say no to new veterans offices. And they will say no, I'm sorry, to a theater that they don't know if they want or need or how it's gonna be used. So what can we do to pull out from phase two to say, okay, this is our, we know that this encapsulates as much as the town would have goodwill for. So can we take things like the veterans offices? Can we do something like, okay, so you don't get the track, the walking track you want, but can we do something that even the rec center finds other funding for at some other point in time? Because we've seen so many of these things go really poorly, like the library, that died so fast. The golf course, I think that should have been pulled from town meeting and not voted on at all, because it just wasn't packaged well. So like I said, I want this to go forward. I want your work to be fruitful, and I want to make sure that what is truly needed from the town and what can be flex space. So yeah, birthday parties, whatnot, we can do whatever they want upstairs. So I think that's going to be really important to add on now.
Are you suggesting that you think that this would sell better if we put the veterans into phase one?
No one's going to say no to veterans offices.
But I think that-
No one's saying no to seniors, because it's something, for so many other past town meetings, okay, we've got new schools, new roof on schools, we're not doing anything for the seniors. So we don't want to vote down seniors because they haven't been voted up for many previous votes.
I think so specific to the veterans offices, there's a couple of things. So one is we do have veterans offices in the town hall, and the veterans do use the senior center. So in terms of, obviously for the future, that's an interest, but it's not something that they won't be able to do these things. They would still be able to do these things in the existing buildings and the existing offices. So that was one piece of it. Another piece is that with the library, if that moves forward, we would want to be able to offer that back part of the building as temporary space. So those were just some of the thought that went into pushing that into phase two, because even just adding 2 program rooms is $1 million. So.
Yeah, but if you could, at town meeting, label them as dual purpose, X plus the veterans and the
Seniors
user
and
space.
veterans. And
it sells better.
It's marketing, and I understand that, but it's like the reason why I feel that the library, the full building for the library, is because it wasn't marketed properly. It wasn't sold. You have to sell this to everybody. You have to get everybody to buy it. And if you have kids and you want play space for your kids, and you're like, well, seniors, okay, I have to have something for kids so that you vote. I have to make sure the seniors, and say seniors, because like I said, they haven't had a shack for so long. Veterans, I tell you, whatever the veterans want, I'll give them. So label it veterans, make sure they're in there, build it out, but it's flex space. And maybe other community portions use it. I'm just very concerned of wasted effort and wanting to make sure that this is put properly, effectively, as many debit lines as you possibly can show. And say, hey Jen, make up some party numbers. What could you rent the space out for? I think that's going to be crucial. Otherwise, it's wasted.
I agree. I think I've seen too many things at town meetings fail because they're more marketed.
Yeah.
And if you need help, and sometimes, I was going to say that, I mean, there are people that do that kind of thing, that would be glad to help you make sure that presentation is sellable to the people in Westborough. Because that's what it needs to be. All the people.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody has to hear a buzzword. They all have to get something.
With kids, all the seniors.
Yeah.
Everybody. And the people in between.
Yeah, and I think just to be clear, from my lens, I totally agree on you got to make it palatable. I think what we want to make sure we steer away from is selling, and I know you're not saying this, selling under false pretenses, right? We don't want to say, oh, the veterans, whatever, but it's really, it's not that. So I think clearly identifying the benefits, I think that's what you're saying of, and there's a win here for everyone.
Yes.
Even as we talked about how might the rooms be used, right? Like, is it really just for seniors? I think, and that just visually brought me to a place of, I haven't seen it in a while, we saw it in the original presentations, of, I think it would be helpful to kind of have that red line or blue, pick a new color maybe, of the overlay of the existing senior center in what is defined as phase 1, not just the multipurpose room. I don't think I saw it earlier today.
I think we have that in here. Let me go back.
And the reason why I say that is
Oh, not the whole center.
the whole space.
It was just that one, yeah.
Well, that one was the existing senior center, but I think you're talking about, it's back to the beginning. This one? That
So-
shows where the phase 1 senior center.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Looking at phase 1, so everything that's colored in some sort of color, how that compares to today's senior center.
Of the whole
inclu-
building.
The whole building.
Yeah.
Office space as well as functional space
Mhm.
versus what else is available on the first floor. And the reason why I say that is because all of a sudden, while I'm not doubting the importance of $1 million, but if all of a sudden, like, there's benefit, to building out the bottom right and the veterans area and leaving the theater space open, like undone right now, like maybe that gets us farther to, and I'm sorry, the woman in the front, I missed your first name, but the marketer. Suzanne, maybe that is a better, there's further gain for our initial investment if we do that, and maybe.
3 phases.
Yeah, and I know, I'm not trying to like go askew from where we're at right now, but, I also think visually seeing that, like, how does that, because correct me if I'm wrong, this shaded space is much bigger than what the senior center
It's
has
almost
now.
twice the size.
What?
It's almost twice the size of the existing senior center.
Right, but that to me is as much the marketing piece, right? Because
Yeah.
when, then that gets to we move away from, we're losing our senior center to what are we gaining, right? And then it also opens the conversation for who's using the entrance, right? Like, we start to break down those kind of barriers of us and them, so anyway.
Yeah.
Because see what happens if we go into town meeting and we don't get 2/3 vote, if we're stuck with a $8.8 million building with some work already been done and investments made, what happens then?
I think it's, the conversation is, or the path is probably similar to the one the library is going down, where you scale back the project. I mean, we can't sell the current senior center until we have a new one.
Right.
So we have 2 buildings now. One
That
we're told is.
town meeting voted on, I mean,
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
this isn't, you guys.
No.
You guys, it's,
No.
the
So
town voted.
Right, so the town has 2 buildings, one is, we're told is undersized for the needs of the seniors and needs updates, but, and then we have another building that half of it is essentially not being used. And so, I mean, obviously you don't just stop there, but you have to scale back this project because assuming that the vote down is cost related.
Then it's like death by 1,000 slices.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one important point though to that is that we have talked about the seniors moving to this building. When we talked about creating this building, it was recreation, it's multi-generation, but it was always to move the senior center over. And so what I don't think would change is the focus on moving the senior center over. Meaning that I don't expect that we would come back with a plan for the second floor, as an example, or a plan for an auditorium. I mean, really, this is what we told people we would do. Doing this creates the funding source of selling the building, so it would continue to focus on this piece of the building, I would assume.
And just building on what Suzanne was saying, about living upstairs, you know, there's a lot of open space. Maybe Jen might do some sort of little presentation about, without investing the money right now there, we could still have mom and baby groups, we could still have birthday party areas, we could still have places for our young people to hang out and whatever. Just so that parents who are arriving don't, you know, so there's something for everyone. Sure. But maybe we can't see it unless Jen says,
Sure.
this is what's going on, and this is where I perceive these groups are gonna be.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think by March, some of those groups will already be there.
Yeah.
And is it,
If I may, just because I'm sure we'll be drawing to a close. So is it your?
he's 15
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
So,
Any question?
did you say that you're not gonna get bids back till March 10th?
This is 6.
Was that correct?
Let me go back to that. Yes, I think that was
Shockingly too close to town meeting.
too close to
No.
town
As
meeting.
disclosure,
March
I work on the
6th.
advisory finance committee, we'll be printing our book by then. You're getting close. It
It's
seems,
March 19th, I think.
yeah, it doesn't give any time.
What do you think it should be?
to A month ahead,
A month ahead?
yeah.
There's an opportunity to have some tweaking and
numbers.
revisions.
I don't know how you have time to sell it to the public in 7 days, because you're getting close, you gotta decide the bids.
Bids due March 6th, town meeting March 22nd, so that's not going to work.
No,
For-
Doesn't
because
work for the ARC.
your marketing blast has to start at least a month before on what's going on.
So the marketing would
can
start.
certainly
I mean, I
have it.
thought,
There will be estimates that say, the estimates we projected to be in this range, and the
Exactly.
bid will come in with the exact number in that range, hopefully, right?
I-
We will have a ballpark, but
just my opinion, this project, I think it was rushed to get to the fall town meeting, and it's being way over rushed to get. We've spent a year on the library working on basically what you're trying to do in 3 months, 2 months. And, I don't think you're gonna do numbers in time, and it really worries me, especially since this is such more of a complicated situation to decide what's in it, and we're moving rooms back and forth and what they're called still, and it's November, so, I don't know. I mean, you can go for it, but I think with having solid numbers ahead of time is very important. And I think that's probably too close.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking at getting the budget presentation January 10th. So at that point, Jeremy, correct me, when is the estimate due from the cost estimator? Is that, it's,
January,
excuse me?
The initial cost, the next cost estimate would be for that.
That's for the January 10th meeting. So that's not the bid, but that would be a cost estimate based on the design of the construction documents. So it should be much more accurate than what we have currently.
Will you be able to modify if something like, you know, let's say the movable partition comes in as, you know, pick a number, you know, like, whoa, that's way more than we anticipated. Will there be the option to say, okay, pause, tweak, revisit?
Yeah, that's what we're,
Because we're gonna have one shot,
Yeah, so typically,
and to your point, if it has to go for a full year, I'm fine with it. I want it to go correctly, not quickly.
typically, correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, the way that we can write these things, I mean, at a high level is, this is a basic, and then we want separate kind of options. What do they call it?
Alternatives.
Alternatives, thank you, that would be a basic
Yeah.
word. Alternatives for the split conference room. So we can, as we go through this iterative process, this clearly is, we've spent like probably 30 minutes talking about cards and conference room. We gotta kind of, like, that's a call out item, right? The stage we know is, I mean, in the multi-purpose room, call out item, right? So there are a couple there that we definitely probably want to, in the bidding process, call out.
yeah.
So that, Suzanne, that wouldn't necessarily come to town meeting at all, because you gotta be ready for that. It would come to sessions like this of like, kind of gain the public input potentially, certainly finance committee, select board, other boards to say, what do you think? And then those boards will make the recommendation that ultimately becomes the article. Is that fair to say, Christie? Did I say that correctly? All of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's also these other sort of touch points, and then there's, we do weekly meetings, the task force we've part of, so it would all, and then the municipal building committee would come.
And, right, sorry, I just gave that.
Nancy?
Yes.
I have a question. Can you go to the slide that has the second floor with the phase? Yeah, right. The elevator area, the exit for that. So I hop off the elevator, or I come up the stairs. Am I correct in thinking that I have to walk across the track to get to the rest of the facility?
No, you're going to come out right here. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, you do walk across the track here. So the track is essentially the circulation path of the second floor, but you would, if you wanted to go to the gym, you would just walk across the track here, and then if you wanted to go to the pool, you would just come this way.
It's
And
just
then-
being proposed as painted.
My concern, well, that's fine, but my concern is you've got people, I don't know how many people will use it.
Yeah.
Running.
Let's call a dozen an hour, I don't know. But you're having seniors and others coming from the first floor up through there, and they're having to walk across the track. My question to you is it possible, understanding that you've got partition walls and structural efficiencies that you described earlier on the right-hand side of the elevators, is it possible to put the elevators and the stairway to where the track is and the stair on the other side? That way, when people come out of that elevator, they'll be in a natural corridor which is not a walking track. Right now, I think it's a safety issue to have people coming out of an egress
So
onto a walking track area.
I would suggest maybe just widening the track at that point to allow for someone to step off, like, and use signage, mind the gap, right? I mean, this is not gonna be a running track, this is a
It
walking
doesn't
track.
matter, you have people coming up that elevator in wheelchairs, walkers, whatever, and they're now coming out and then
Yeah.
somebody walking in front of them.
Yeah,
No, the door doesn't open to there.
No,
The door of the elevator
No, I
opens into
understand
that
that,
little
I
room.
understand that. You're gonna hop out of the elevator, you're gonna take
Yeah.
the left-hand turn, and you're gonna go out and walk across the
Right.
track. I get that.
So these would be glass
Exactly what I'm
doors,
saying.
so you could see if somebody's there. I mean, it really is kind of no different than if you're stepping into a corridor.
yeah.
So that's kind of what we're seeing. I mean, a walking track is not a running track.
No, I
So-
get it.
Yeah.
I understand it, but it's nonetheless, it's a point of where people are going to be walking around,
Mhm.
maybe they're speed walking, I don't know.
Mhm.
And my concern is this, if you're looking to leverage the structural, areas of the building, why not move the elevator and the stairwell over to where the track is, move the track where the, elevator and stairs are, and that way when you exit the elevator, you're now exiting directly in front of the basketball court into that hall, that's essentially a hallway.
There really, yeah, there's not enough room here, because there,
Where the pillars are.
right here, there's a raised, because the basketball, or the gym is raised, so there's a little ramp to come up to a higher level to come into the gym. So this area right here wouldn't work as a circulation path.
I think this question's been around for a while on this side. And I'm sort of slightly interested in the fact that we're talking about a walking track. Presumably there's some big demand for it, but is it possible, is it feasible that the walking track were to be shorter and that you located the other side of the piece? So it runs down the side that then you don't.
So the
have
walking
people
track
crossing.
comes this way.
It cuts into the future room.
Yeah.
So there's time there.
No, what I'm saying is that you don't go round the blue piece, you come down the left-hand side. So it's a short.
You're saying move the walking track into here?
Yeah, I mean,
Nancy, can you show
I can't visualize it now.
The future.
Okay.
Future building,
Or are you saying you're gonna put more in the middle
Future
there?
build-out is room.
But the thing is, but those corners that you cut off can be used for
My
other purposes.
apologies.
You don't lose even if you move that track over, like you said, you don't lose that space, it can still be used, it's just outside the track instead of inside the track. So I think that is a viable option.
The other problem, if you do that, though, you're cutting space out of the space downstairs.
Yeah.
No, he was suggesting leaving the elevator and the stairway where it is now, just move the track to the left of it.
Oh,
Instead of the right.
So this would cut these rooms here. Yeah.
But, I think we're looking at this as like a track, but I mean, she makes a great point. This is like really kind of flow of the building. Because even if you brought it to the inside, we'll say the left, as we're looking at it, of the elevator area and the stairs, you still have to be able to get over to the gym. You gotta be able to get over to that little room that like has the rounded, that one next to the gym. So this is really as much for flow of the area as it is a walking track.
Yeah, it's basically
So
the
no matter what,
circulation of the space.
You're gonna have to get off the elevator and,
Well, I'm imagining 10 kids hopping off the elevator, running out to the basketball court, and there's a bunch of elderly walking around the walking track upstairs.
well,
So all I'm suggesting is I think that there's a safety security issue with that, and I think it's reasonable to move that walking track to the left and allow that to be more focused on
I
walking.
think,
And allow that corridor to still happen on the right-hand side and get to all of those other functions that you just stated.
I think we
Especially
can-
with rooms in the middle going in the future.
I think we can put signs on the inside of the elevator door that are right on the doors. I mean, we're getting really granular here. No matter if you're the first floor or second floor, use caution when you exit. There are moving walkways. I mean, that's just, you see that all over. I mean,
I could see it both ways, and I think, if it would be helpful, maybe we can do an option to show what that would look like and what kind of, how it would change the future spaces up here, and that way people could take a look at
I
it.
think it's also, it's perhaps not a total match to think about, but like in a mall, lots of people treat malls like walking tracks, lots of people do. People come out of elevators and come out of stores, and, that seems to work pretty well, with people being able to circulate the mall, even if they're walking or as a walking
I
track.
get where you're coming from, but the difference between this and a mall is that space, that current hall, that corridor that's right there right now is probably 4 feet, maybe 5 feet wide.
No,
A
it's
mall-
seven,
a mall is
it's,
50 feet
it's
wide.
7.5 feet is the
No, I
width
get
of
it,
it,
I
yeah.
get it. Again, my example stands in regards to a very likely scenario of kids pouring out of that elevator, coming up the stairs, and people walking around that track. Kids aren't gonna be caring about some sign on the elevator. I hate to say it, Chuck,
Yeah,
they're
I-
not.
I have a
Well,
question of how
you know
much
what?
demand there was for a walking track.
It was one of the highest rated requests on the survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because, I think that, in general, having a walking track is very restrictive to that future build out. If we're planning on having all these rooms, there's going to be, people coming in and out all the time. And to your point about the malls, I think there's a difference between malls don't advertise those as walking paths, even though people unofficially use it.
It's circulation in the mall.
So I like the design and I like the circulation, but I guess my point is does it need to be officially titled a walking path? Because I think to that point, if that's the intended purpose, instead of having people actually be able to access the space through it and the circulation, that's
Well,
my issue.
you make a great point. Have we considered on the first floor in that 4,000 square foot, and I just don't have a sense of space, on the
Yeah.
first floor, does it not work there?
So it does, and originally, when I first looked at this project, I thought, oh, well, you got high ceiling, let's build a walking track
Yeah.
around this big open space on the mezzanine level, which then, of course, that would cost a lot more,
Yeah.
so we killed that idea quickly. But the other point was that somebody said, and I don't know, maybe it was you, was that the second floor, because of the windows, is a much more
Oh.
pleasant place to walk.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
the first floor, if we did that in that
Yeah,
future
good
space,
point. Yeah,
there's
there's
no
no
windows
windows
at all.
there.
And who's gonna want it?
Yep, I forgot about the windows.
Or
Yeah.
we could save $1 million and not do the extra elevator, and there'd be no worry at
Well,
all.
I would be for that, Joe, because, I think there is
Yeah.
a natural need, that the current access to the second floor is just not
Yeah.
viable. You need an oxygen tank if you're gonna walk up those stairs, it's so high, and certainly not, that elevator is in terrible shape, and I'm thinking in the wintertime. I think we want people to be able to access between those two floors much more easily than having to go back outside and go back up.
So I just want to clarify, the elevator is not
No, it's perfectly functional, it's
Yeah.
not like a luxurious like hotel.
Right, you know, it's not, yeah, it's very functional.
I think the whole point about the walking track is, you know, as somebody's just alluded to, as we build out, hopefully in the future, there's going to be more entrances and exits from rooms, is, you know, is really the designation of walking track may be something that needs to be reconsidered. Maybe we just call it the high street, you know, and people can amble about and that they like, but it's not an official walking track, you know?
So I think that's a good point, right? So when I say it's a walking track, then the expectation is that people crossing it are going to yield to people walking on the walking track. Versus at the mall, the expectation is that someone entering or exiting the store probably has the right of way, and the people that are utilizing it to walk are more likely to yield. And it really, I think that was the point you were trying to make, is it really changes sort of that expectation and the utilization and sort of priority and traffic flow. And I think it's a good point. If I am walking here and someone's coming out of the elevator in a wheelchair, I'm gonna stop and wait. But if I'm walking on the walking track, you should wait.
I think we should
So
be
we're
able
gonna
to
get some
read.
crossing guards involved.
I don't want those confrontations, I want it to be very clear and easy. And
Well, maybe the walking track, you stay to the right. If you get off the elevator, you go to the left. So that the lanes are clear. This is the directions.
If we look future a little bit here, we just sent out an email to the rec department on basketball for the winter. And one of the options is to have practice in the community center. So these are your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids going to basketball practice right there. So they're gonna have 2 friends on that elevator with them. They're gonna be jumping up and down the elevator. They're gonna run out the doors, and it's gonna be a challenge.
So
And then they're
don't-
all gonna be waiting right there while one practice ends and another practice
So-
begins.
So don't you think we can, part of the way we can handle this is, and I think, look, if I were a kid, the last place, honestly, I would be going would be through that main entrance.
Yes,
gonna say
exactly.
I'd be
Just
like, you know,
point
if
that
part
out.
of the instruction was, you know, enter through the far entrance, clearly marked blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? That's where kids are
This is
gonna
the
go.
recreation
Or we can-
entrance.
We
You
can
come up
hopefully-
here.
I'm not saying 100%, but we can say, I mean, we can have signs in the first floor, I mean, without making it look industrial of like, you know, like, this is a walking space, like, it's not a running space. I mean, kids told once or twice, like, hey, you can't be running through here to get to the elevator. Or you're not gonna be able to come here for a while. I mean, come on, like,
Yeah, I don't think that the
I'll say it,
kids,
I'm hoping that the staff doesn't have to do that kind of policing. honestly.
I don't think the
They
intent
will.
is that the kids
They
be
will.
on this area. This is more for access up and down for anybody in the recreation department space to access the future space, or for the seniors to come and access the recreation space. Not for kids to come in here and go up here to
So
recreation.
instead of like crossing traffic, now they're on the track.
Yeah, so they come in here, they get off this elevator or come up these stairs, and then they come here, and then they go wherever they want to go.
I will say, I
Why
think it's
can't
also-
you use a gymnasium for that walking track? I mean, how many basketball games are gonna be going on? They can
That's-
just create a track around the periphery of the gymnasium.
I don't think it's really large enough to do
Yeah.
that.
Probably not.
I also think, you know, from the little bit I've seen, coming into the bottom left, where the Boston Sports Club folks used to come in, that's the cool part to come in. It's not gonna be cool to walk in through what's perceived as a senior center entrance.
Exactly.
And there's, you know, in my view, there's more parking that a lot of these young people who went to Boston Sports Club are used to using at that entry for the Boston Sports Club. And when they come in there, there's a front desk there where Jen Kirkland and her folks kind of workish in that area. And when they come in, they're like, hey guys, you know, it's a lot different from a 90-year-old, you know, with a walker, sorry, I'll be there, you know, coming into the senior center area. No.
Not all
We
people
can't
in
really
the senior
predict.
center are 90 and using walkers. Jim?
That is true, but I think the ones that people are concerned about, the collisions are those that are,
yeah, I think
older.
the point, there's enough discussion here to show it, Patrick, like you said, like, what does that look like? And I also think in that visual, like, what does that distance look like? I have no sense of what this walking Main Street track is in terms of distance. And how would that be decreased, if you were to make it sort of zigzag around the block?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was anybody in the survey data that I saw, or I haven't even heard any conversations to say, we need this to be a legitimately 100-meter track, right? So, you know, whatever size we could fit in there was, you know, so I don't know, does it really change it in any meaningful way, other than, in my opinion, creating a more safe, secure environment? Even if you did move that track to the left of the elevators, the corners that you're cutting off on the other ends could still be used more. It shows there's storage already.
Yeah,
Or
they could be
even
stored.
another small conference room or bathroom or something. It could be used for something. I'm just saying, move it to the, I think it's a good compromise to move that to the left. Instead of moving, my first suggestion is moving the entire, because it does alter the.
Well, I think we should, I
Yeah,
think we should
maybe
see
that-
it and understand what the
Sure,
the square
absolutely.
footage distance, or the
Absolutely. I'd like to see
linear
it.
Yeah.
footage distance is
I
different.
think that's a study we can do.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Can anyone give a 3-minute recap of how how that meeting went today? I mean, is there anything that we haven't talked about that they talked about?
I would say the majority of the discussion was spent on the multi-purpose room, space, use, division, overflow for those big events. How does that work? Storage of items that they use there, setup, windows on the, yep.
And one last question for you, then I'm gonna be done. You know the windows, if you're standing where the, you know, senior.
Do you want me to go back to the senior center plan?
Yeah,
Like,
because when we went there for a tour recently, there were windows there that Steinmart used to use already on the front of the building.
those windows are there, and they're
So
staying.
They're staying, okay,
Yeah.
we're not talking about rebuilding those or anything?
No,
They-
no.
Yeah, okay,
The new windows are what you see here in red. So right now, this is just a solid wall. So in order to bring light into these rooms, we have to put new windows in. And then the same over here, these are new windows. And then in the future phase, we've got some windows going into the veterans office. And then, of course, these, we talked about, those are existing openings, but they have doors that will come out and get put with windows. But all of this down here, this is existing windows to remain.
okay, yeah. And also one last thing, on the conference rooms, where there are 2 rooms over there, and they showed long conference tables with chairs, if those rooms would be used for seniors or others for other kind of activities, a conference table isn't really all that suitable. It can't be moved to the side and, you know, yeah.
What are you talking about, the one that we had that long discussion about, the card room, conference room?
Yeah.
So it could be that maybe one of those conference rooms wants to be a large conference table, and then maybe the other one is made up of tables that are put together that can be reconfigured. Because that's, a lot of times you can put 2 or 3 tables together that could be used as a conference table, or you can separate them and use them for training purposes or
And could we
something
even
else.
hold off putting conference tables in there? I don't know how much conference tables and chairs cost, to see what kind of usage those room, what kind of demand is being made on those rooms.
Is there any existing furniture that can, I mean, it won't
I'm
be
sure there must be.
new and pretty, but it's, you already own it.
The senior center, say recently, it's probably not, I don't know if that means maybe 5 years ago, maybe longer. They purchased the tables and chairs that they use in their multi-purpose room, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't bring those over.
Yeah.
I mean, they were purchased because they're very light, they're easy to put away, they go on racks, so, you know, I think we're thinking about all those things. I mean, I know even kitchen equipment, like what can we move over to save?
Question, do we know whether billiard players like windows? Because it seems to me like that might be glary on one side of the table, and if it wasn't that useful, you could switch the conference room with the billiard room and not bother having to put in a window.
You put blinds.
Well, you put blinds, you're wasting the window space.
Well, it's a snippet.
They're not- Yeah, I don't know, I'm not a pool player, but I would think that window wouldn't necessarily be a feature.
I think that I think generally all of the program rooms will benefit from having the windows, the natural light. It makes it much more enjoyable to be in those spaces. And there was one senior this afternoon, or early afternoon, that really was very interested in making sure that they are expressing the desire to have this natural light and how important it was.
To that point, that's why the card room should be.
Mhm.
May I ask one final question though, just as you're thinking about this, I really am just seeking an assurance for the future before we vote on this, that if we were to build out the senior centre, the bottom line there, the veterans point, engineering wise, structurally, we will be able to break in through the external walls and fit out the final piece, the auditorium, because otherwise we don't have any access. So just thinking ahead, how will we access that to fit it out in 5 or 6 years' time? Are we able to come through that external wall?
Well, you mean for the construction workers to come in and do the job?
Whatever we have to do, construction, fit out, and everything else. I just need to make before we've got.
You don't want to have
in.
finished space on all 4 sides of it and then have to do. I mean, they do that. I mean, a lot of times places are renovated in existing spaces.
We're not going to pay to build something and then knock it down. So all I'm asking is
Is there access to the
structurally,
outside parking
engineering
lot?
wise, can you make sure
Yes.
you understand that?
Entrance on the wall, right?
Yeah, we've got this, but that's just a single door.
Yeah.
So we
But
then
I'm
should be
presuming
double
we could
together.
break in through the wall to the top there with the one single door.
There is one. Way up there.
Way up
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
What do you-
But that's
But I-
That's
actually-
actually a loading dock.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
If you
Alright,
build
let's
around
go.
this space on
Oh,
3
wrong.
sides, there's only one way in. Can we structurally do that engineering wise? Is it going to be safe to do so in 5 or 6 years' time? That's what I'm saying.
Because you have all that auditorium equipment, right?
Yeah.
Once you.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like Jackie,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
productions and stuff, there's lots of stuff.
Oh,
I mean, that door is, that top door is there already, right?
Yeah, the door is, so I
Okay, can we make it a double door?
This door?
Yeah.
Yeah, we may have to, yeah.
Make it a double door, might be big enough to get everything through.
Is that one?
So this door, we're talking about that one being a double door. This is an existing door.
Okay, sorry, I was assuming, if I may, we built that, we may have done this in phase 2, we've certainly done that in phase 2, that's probably going to be phase 3, is it?
Well, all we are calling it now is future phase. So whether future is 2 or 3.
Phase 15B. When we come to it, we don't want to be breaking in through the, through 3 sides. The only entrance is where we have program room outside the thick grey wall. As Jack says, there is a single door. I mean, presumably we can make that a double door, or we break through the wall to be able to come in. I'm just,
Yeah,
That's a good point.
you don't wanna redo and.
Right.
I get it.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
we-
you have a structural engineer in your pocket. Good.
Do we cover this? That little mezzanine is hanging out there to the right like its own little island. What is the future? I don't recall what the future use is. That just a takedown ultimately?
No,
Put the light on it
it's
too, so we know what Shelby's talking about.
All right.
so this is the mezzanine, and this is existing, and we are not planning to do anything with it. So what you have now, there is there are some overhead doors. You come in, there is a conveyor belt
Yeah.
that brings you up, and it's right here. I don't know if you can see this. There's a conveyor belt that you can bring materials up here, and then there's a stair, sort of an open stair that you can walk up here. And this room right here has a lot of electrical panels, some mechanical stuff, and then this is just storage. And then this is double height. These 2 rooms, this is an electrical room and sprinkler room,
Right.
and those are not part of the mezzanine space.
So where's the stairs over here by the shared lounge?
This one here,
No, and unless I'm not understanding where this is. Is this stair here?
that is that, yeah.
That's the stair
Yeah.
right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is the first floor part of it, this is the mezzanine part of
So the
it.
mezzanine would remain and presumably for storage?
Storage,
Thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
that's all, currently, we're not planning to do anything with it, so it
I
would
just
stay
couldn't remember,
as
it
is.
was sitting over there, we didn't talk about it.
So what I'm wondering, has anyone used the conveyor belt? Do we know?
I don't think that we have used it.
I was just curious as to how we find out whether, you know, that's
When we were there last, Jim Stewart said it was
it's functional. Okay, good to know.
Maybe the kids
The
could put a
erect
slide
department
in
slide.
See, that's what I needed, the slide, the rectangle.
So the one thing that we are planning to do is to enclose this so that it, and then put a door on it so it can be locked so that people don't wander in there.
It's a good
So.
idea.
And this would be future phase work. And
Thank
it
you
would
very
be done
much.
at the time we do the shared lounge.
Great.
Any other questions? You guys have been very, very attentive and have come up with a lot of good ideas, and I really appreciate your support and all of your thoughtfulness in the project, so. And hope to see you at the next,
Although
at
if
the
it's
rest
at
of
10
them.
a.m.
Yeah.
The one last thing, the 10 a.m. budget meeting on the, whatever the date was, I think, Eddie, I think you said it could be viewed via Zoom as well. Looking at budget plans on Zoom, oh my God, it'd be a nightmare at 10 a.m. And I think townspeople will say, what the heck?
So what would work better for you, at 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
Would you be open to doing a Zoom meeting at 6 o'clock on the same day?
As long as it could be in person as well as Zoom. I mean, I'll do it in person, but
When you say budget meeting, is that?
it was in the bottom right
No,
corner.
Yeah, but is that like, I assume that was you presenting the budget to the select board or something, no?
No,
No,
that's
so,
true.
These are outreach meetings,
Yeah. Oh,
all right.
so right here.
that one, on the
Okay,
bottom
so it's a
right.
sorry, presentation, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm.
Like even when, Christie, when you put up a bunch of stuff on this wall, half of us are like, oh, what?
Yeah,
You know, you talk us through it, thank God, because some of us can't read it.
So, do you think
Can
it'll
work,
work?
but I think we hear
We
your
could talk
point,
about
so we
that.
can talk
Okay.
about it.
Good, okay.
Christie, would it be appropriate to get this up on the town webpage and even put the links for the Zoom meetings? Over it there?
Well, yes, when we put all the presentations on the webpage, I think what we're hearing is that we need to rethink when these things, if they'll be Zoom and what time they'll be, so we probably would not identify these as scheduled meetings.
What, and my only, I mean, speaking from the senior lens, we're not gonna get a lot of participation via Zoom.
Yeah, so I think
From the same.
I mean, I know you're hearing that,
that
Christie.
needs to be figured out.
The seniors, they will not be able, I'm
Would they
broad
not
brush
hybrid?
here, no offense intended,
yeah.
please, said
Can
with
we just
love.
talk about it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we heard the feedback.
Yeah.
Let people go.
Well, thank you so much, Christie,
One
and
question,
your
will
whole
you
team
be,
here.
like, saying, this is what we decided based on the meetings that you had?
That's what we're doing today. We presented what we have decided based on all the feedback that we have received from all the previous outreach. We've come up with
So will
this.
you be sharing the feedback and say, okay, we heard this, we're doing this, we heard this, we're doing this?
Well, I tried to explain that today, the transition from the charrette to this design, and hopefully there was some communication there on that. But I can't, I mean, it's hard to go back to all the details when we had surveys and then all the outreach meetings we
No, I
had.
understand that, I'm just like, because again, my concern is that you'll hear something, maybe act on something, but not act on, oh, we really need to make this affordable, and so it'll pass. And so I don't know if that's your job
We know
to,
that.
in order to do that.
That's a constant pressure. We are very aware that the budget is
Yeah.
tight.
We're not trying to build a Taj here. You know, absolutely,
I just want to make sure that what we're saying here is heard.
Yep.
Move forward.
yeah, it is, for sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.